Welcome to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast, where we help you in the LGBTQ plus community find a safe and affordable retirement place. Join Mark Goldstein as he interviews others who live in gay-friendly places around the globe. Learn about the climate, cost of living, healthcare, crime and safety, and more. Now, here's your host, Mark Goldstein.
Today, we have Brian Longstreth. He's a rare native Floridian born in Bradenton in 1961. He moved to Tampa in 1983 and found home in St. Petersburg in 1984. His early career in restaurant and retail led him to becoming a realtor in 1992 and getting very involved in the neighborhoods of St. Petersburg, Florida. He founded Your Neighborhood Realty in 1999. Brian was instrumental in the resurgence of Grand Central District, historic Kenwood, and Central Oak Park neighborhoods. This led to becoming very involved in city, county, and state politics, supporting LGBTQ plus friendly politicians. In 2008, Brian converted an apartment building to GayStPete House B&B, changed the name to Casa Del Merman in 2021, and expanded to a second location in Montanita, Ecuador. And today we will be talking about Montanita, Ecuador with Brian. Also in 2021, Brian married Sam Thosawat in October 2021 and parent to Rescue Dog Whiskey. Brian was a founding co-chair of St. Pete Pride in 2003 and founding member of the Come Out St. Pete in 2016. Few of Brian's favorite projects were getting the Tampa Bay Race to become the second MLB team to record It Gets Better video in 2011 and saving an historic bungalow house, getting it moved to a new location and turning it into the LGBTQ Welcome Center for St. Petersburg. Without further ado, we have Brian here. And Brian, you've done a lot in your career. And everything, you did in St. Pete, now you're involved in Montanita, Ecuador. So welcome to the podcast and tell us your story. What brought you to Montanita, Ecuador?
Well, thank you, Mark. I'm happy to be here. It's been a little bit of a journey. I had started looking about 15 years ago about where I wanted to eventually retire. And I had pretty much ruled out most of the Caribbean. I needed to be by a beach. I knew that. But I had ruled out most of the Caribbean just due to the hurricanes and having lived in Florida. We'd never really gotten hit by a hurricane here in St. Petersburg. They seemed to glance around us, fortunately. But I knew I didn't, I've seen and visited some of the islands where they have hit, and I didn't want to be involved in that. So I started looking in Central America, went to Costa Rica and loved the gay area there, Manuel Antonio, but there really wasn't a lot there other than the resorts. I mean, it's beautiful. The resorts are beautiful. But to me, it's like, okay, what do you do after a week of being there? And it's pretty remote. It's a long drive from the main city. And so then I kept going down, and I was doing research online. Again, this was about 15 years ago, so it's a little bit limited back then. And I went to Panama next. As I heard of the favorable tax statuses there, but I found it to be pretty closeted still. In fact, we had booked a hotel, a small hotel that was advertised as gay friendly, and when we arrived, it apparently had changed hands the month before, and they wouldn't rent us a king size bed. My partner and I at the time, they said, no, you have to have two beds, and that just wasn't a good start. And I found some of the clubs there were, no windows, special knock on the door to get in. And it's like, I'm used to being much more out and open. And so I kept looking. I went down to Colombia, really enjoyed it there. Again, the coastal areas there are kind of expensive already. And being in real estate for as long as I have been, I'm looking for bargains. And
of course.
So Ecuador kind of kept coming up in those searches, and I kept wondering why, because I was just kind of searching gay retirement South America, and so it kept coming up. And the only thing I knew about the Galapagos was, or the Ecuador, is that the Galapagos Islands were there, But it turns out in 1999, they had sexual orientation added to their constitution as protected class. Later on, in 2013, they had civil marriages. And then 4 years ago now, they had the gay marriage written into their constitution. So it's always been a pretty progressive country. And so I went to visit the first time in 2007, I guess. 2007. Again, kind of flying blind. I met somebody on gay.com. He said he would be my guide for the week. We met in Guayaquil, which is a big city in the southern part of the country along the river, and got there. Beautiful city. It's got a lot of beautiful things along the waterfront. There's a Ferris wheel and some museums and some neat shops and some historic buildings in their downtown. But he mentioned that I really needed to go to Montanita, and I had never heard of that. And he said, "You'll love it. It's a party town." And so we went, and it's about a 2.5 hour drive from Guayaquil. And really the first day when I pulled in, I was like, this feels really good. It was very bohemian. It started as a surfing backpacking village in the 60s. I've seen some pictures of the 60s, and there's like 3 or 4 buildings. And so it's grown a lot relatively for, the country in that short time, but it's still not real big. The quote downtown area is about 8 square blocks. But it's seriously very much and well known in Ecuador as a party town. And so that 8 square blocks has about probably 10 nightclubs in it. And they start at about 11 o'clock at night and go till sunup. So if you like the dance clubs and the parties, you would like this. I liked it because I could do that little bit of party stuff. I didn't stay out that late, maybe once, but that you could walk, 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet out of town and get a good night's sleep. And you have some really beautiful weather, beaches, tropical forests are close by. And just to me, it was the combination. And so I started going back every year for vacation. And I started just exploring more along the coast just to make sure that my initial feeling was right. And what attracted me again was just the ability to be able to walk to the party scene. It's very international because of the surfing. It brings people from all over. And compared to many of the other villages along the coast, it just has a little more excitement going for it. And that's where it attracted me to it. So we had started looking, and then, of course, the economy collapsed. And so put off plans for quite a while, and then started looking again back in 2018, started to go down 2019, the day before we were supposed to fly down. COVID shut down everything. Our flights were canceled. And so we just kind of held on to get through the COVID period. And as soon as they lifted the COVID restrictions on travel, I was determined to get back down there and really investigate more seriously, looking at property. And we had found a couple of hotels. We had one that was under contract that did not close. And we were driving around with our agent, and he said, "I heard of one that's coming on the market. It wasn't really listed yet." And so we pulled in and saw this very large 20-room hostel and on about an acre of land. And we thought, well, this really has a lot of possibilities. And it was a little above our price range that we wanted, but since it wasn't listed yet, we thought, let's go take a look and let's talk to him. So we got it under contract and closed relatively quickly. And in the meantime, with that extra land, we were planning to add a pool. And we talked about, my partner, Steve, and I, business partner, had talked about putting in a little bar and restaurant on site. And as we were talking about that, the realtor said, "Well, I've heard of a beach bar that might be available." And we're like, that's very intriguing. The hotel is about 2,000 feet from the beach. And we really like the idea of having a beach presence there, since that's predominantly why people go there. And so we found this little, he said it was a kitchen, large kitchen, and a bar area right on the beach with 2 apartments above it. That sounds really interesting. And so we went to look at it and we said, well, how much is it? And he said the guy renovated it about 4 years ago. During COVID, he kind of changed his career plans and final plans. So he just wants out of it. And he just wanted $20,000 and assumed the lease. We're like, well, how much is the lease? And it was like $400 a month. And I was like, $400 a month for a Pacific Coast on the beach, restaurant, bar, and 2 apartments.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And it was in pretty good shape. I mean, it hadn't been used, it had been closed for about 2 years by that time. So we did a little bit of updating, but it's worked out well. And we, kind of excited about it. We've obviously expanded the merman theme to almost everything. The hotel is Casa Del Merman at Gay Montanita House. And then we decided to name the bar Merman Beach Club. And then we've been working on a menu and just started out pretty good, and everything's going along pretty well down there. And while we were in the middle of that, we had another bar that was existing there, an existing gay beach bar on the other end of town. And he was also talking about changing careers. And he had contacted us because we had already talked with him and told him what we were doing. And he said, would you guys be interested in taking over this one? And I said, well, I mean, it really wasn't part of our plan, but we liked the idea of having, a couple of different establishments in the city. And kind of originally it was almost a defensive move of making sure it stayed gay. We came to terms on that, and it's kind of the same situation, a very low price and a very low assumption of the lease.
Yeah. So you have 2 bars now?
We have 2 bars now. Only the Merman Beach Club serves through. The Sunset Chill Lounge is just a kind of a little beach lounge, very, very low key vibe. And so we kind of have a triangle around the main city. The hotel is inland a little bit from the main city. We have 1 beach bar on the south, Sunset Chill Lounge, and 1 beach bar on the north by the point, which is the surfing point, called Merman Beach Club. And there's another bar there close to Merman Beach Club that was a gay bar back when I visited, originally called El Ocho Lado, the other side. And somebody else had bought it about 2 years ago, and from Texas. And he had called it, he changed the name to Tom's Toucan. His name was Tom, and kind of kept it as a bar. He's a really sweet guy, retired. And he said, he really didn't really want to own a bar. He just wanted a bar he could go to and drink, for happy hour. And he ended up also wanting to sell. And we decided 2 was enough for us.
Yeah, I'd say.
But we recruited a friend from St. Petersburg that was thinking about coming down there as well and had run bars before. And so we put them in touch with each other. And so he's down there now. And so there's 3 gay beachfront bars.
Wow. Eternity is gay.
Yeah. It got gay pretty fast. And it was always, I think that was one of the things that always surprised me. Again, it's sitting in Montanita at one of the clubs, people dancing together, holding hands, walking down the street, men, women, and it's always been, I think, very, be happy, open, people are partying.
Live and let live.
Live and let live, very much so. And that bohemian atmosphere is always what's attracted me to it.
That's what I hear, the bohemian atmosphere. I always hear that.
It's kind of funny. There's a block down there that it's called Cocktail Street. And it's basically, it started out people with like a 6-foot table that each one of them side by side is just its own little bar. And there's like a 4-seater table in front of them. So you kind of find the bartender you like or has the booze that you like. And then you sit in front of their bar and just people watch and drink. But we call it the Bohemian Bourbon Street. Because everybody's just there drinking and having fun. There's a lot of smoking of various substances as well. But it's what I like.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, it's a Bohemian Bourbon Street, but it smells better, because it's on the beach. So,
right. What I liked what you said was when you first got there, you had this feeling, and that's, Even in real estate, when somebody sees a place, get this gut feeling about a place. And that's what I like. And you had that gut feeling.
Well, and it's
So
my experience in St. Petersburg was kind of the same. I had started in Tampa and didn't care for the traffic and the way the city was laid out. I didn't really like it that much. And I went to Dunedin, which is a cute little city north of St. Pete. It has some character and charm, and it's small. Very nice little main street. And then I came down to St. Pete for, I think, one of the very first Mainsail art festivals on the waterfront, and driving around the old Northeast neighborhood with all the homes from the 20s and the brick streets, and then seeing this big art festival on the waterfront. I had the same feeling. It was like, this feels like home.
It's nice.
I was here, been here for, 30 years now, 30 or 28 years. So I think, no, 38. Oh my gosh, too many years. But I really enjoy St. Pete still, and I still love it. I think it's still the best place to live in the U.S., despite what Florida does on a statewide level. We have a great big blue pocket here that's welcoming to all. But Montanita has always been very welcoming, and again, they're very progressive, and the process of moving there is very easy. They're on the U.S. dollar currency, so there's no exchange.
That's really attractive.
It's really attractive. I mean, there still is such a thing as gringo pricing. You have to be aware of that, if there's not a price marked on something, just, be aware you might be getting a different price than the right local was. And there's many ways to work with that. I mean, we have our favorite taxi driver now that we use all the time, going from Guayaquil to Montanita. And he's also kind of become our shopper. We'll go on shopping trips with him, and he helps us make sure we get a good price. But it certainly makes it easier, and the prices in general are just so much cheaper there. There are a few things that are more expensive, like some of the electronics, TVs, appliances, phones are more expensive because almost everything is imported.
Yeah.
But land is so cheap there. We had been looking at several properties, and we are actually looking at property around the hotel to kind of assemble to do for some future growth. But construction prices are incredibly cheap, especially compared to what we're seeing here. Talking $45 a square foot there versus it's $350 to $400 a square foot now in St. Pete.
Yeah, that's quite a difference.
And it's solid construction. Some interesting techniques. They're different.
I saw the videos when you were building, when you were constructing, and that was pretty unbelievable, just watching how fast things got done.
Yeah, we still laugh about that because we have a local club here that's adding a pool to their historic hotel in St. Pete, and they had a really cool design. And back in December last year, when we closed on the property, I asked them, I said, we're getting ready to put in a pool. Would you mind if we used your design? And they said, yeah, that's fine. It's in Ecuador. There's no issue. And so we closed on the hotel on a Friday and gave the contractor a sketch, gave him that design, and he sent us back a sketch, and that's pretty much it. And he goes, well, I can start on Monday. And we're like, well, that's way too fast for us. It was like, we're quite ready for that. And he goes, and I can do that for about $38,000. And I mean, here that pool is going to be probably approaching $150,000.
Yeah.
And he'll build it in 45 days. And we thought that's just bizarre. And sure enough, on Monday, he had a front loader out there digging a hole, pretty much had it set. They had interesting technique on pools there. They line it with concrete block first, and then they put rebar and pour concrete in the middle. And then they kind of skim coat it with concrete and then tile it. They don't really use a plaster or smooth surface on top. They tile everything. But they got it done in 40 days. And it's a nice looking pool. It helps a lot, with making it more of a resort and improving the property. All of the rooms have private baths, which was another somewhat rarity down there. A lot of times places down there had shared baths. But all of ours have private baths. And then we added air conditioning to all of the units. And
Oh, that's good. That's
when we
good.
first bought it, even though it's the weather, we'll get in the weather later, but the weather doesn't really require AC on most of the year, but we knew our guests would want it. So we started out thinking, well, how about if we just start with 10 rooms with AC? And we talked to an AC person that was referred to us, and he goes, well, I can do 10 rooms for $4,200. And we're like, no, we need 10 rooms, not one room. 4,200 sounds like one room here in the US. And he goes, no, that's 10 rooms installed.
Wow.
I'm like,
That's great.
okay. And then we're like, well, what about the other 10 rooms? He goes, well, if you do 10 more rooms, you've got to upgrade the electric. So it'd be $5,200 for the second 10 rooms. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And
And for our listening audience, Brian also moderates or helps moderate our Facebook group, Where Do Gays Retire? And we kind of saw videos along the way of Brian's progress, from the very beginning to the end product. So that's how we got to this point. So Brian, also, not to cut you off on that, but let's get into the nuts and bolts of Montanita. And you mentioned, it's live and let live, and it's very gay friendly. Is it more so than any other place in Ecuador, do you think?
I think probably it is a little bit. I mean, everywhere I've gone there, I haven't had an issue. And, and I've gone with friends, and my husband, before we got married, we were down there, and people they're all just so friendly, and even the funny thing there, you have to be careful because the quote straight men are very friendly. They hold eye contact longer than most straight men do here. They're not afraid of a hug or a kiss on the cheek. And so you just have to check yourself sometimes just to make sure you're not going too far. But it's always been very friendly. And that's, I do think, again, part of that is the international surfing community is known for being pretty laid back too. And I think that's part of it.
Did you visit other cities in Ecuador before deciding that Montanita was going to be the place?
Yeah, over the years, I hit, I think, almost every coastal village and spent at least a night there and walked around, and they all are quite charming. They all have kind of different uses or specialties. It's kind of funny when you're shopping down there. There's one village that's known for having furniture, and there's one village that's known for having hammocks and lamps and stuff. There's another village that's known for ironwork. Then there's a couple of fishing villages, of course. And so they all kind of have their own different character. And I just kind of go back to Montanita had what I think, is going to be the most attractive, is have a little party atmosphere, a little international, but still very laid back.
So geographically speaking, where is Montanita exactly located within Ecuador?
It is.
Where is Ecuador?
Yeah. I get that question a lot. Ecuador is between Colombia and Peru. And originally it used to be a part of Colombia way back. And they share the same colors of the flag. Ecuador has it as an emblem on their flag, but they share the same yellow, blue, and red colors. And so it's a small country. It's about the size of Colorado. Within the country, of course, the equator is there in the northern part of the country, with a lot of mountains, volcanoes, snow-covered mountains by the equator, which, everybody was like, oh, okay. And then the southern part is more desert-like. So it changes the topography pretty quickly. And so the southern part is where we fly into Guayaquil, because it's about 2.5-hour drive from Guayaquil to Montanita. About an hour and a half to the coast. There's a big city there called Salinas in the southern part of the country. And then you just head north along the coast. And Salinas has a big hospital and a little airport, and a lot of shopping. When you start going up along the coast, it's mostly smaller villages and not a whole lot of big stores. We have, and like I said, it's about an hour north of that turn, basically. And you go through a lot of different villages and the speed humps in every village. So it takes a little bit longer, but you get to see, the different feel of the different villages. It's kind of neat. And to the north is the bigger city is Manta. That's where most people fly when they go to the Galapagos. They stop in Manta, and there's a port in Manta. And
Is there an expat community?
there's a growing expat community. And one of the things that Montanita, there's really three towns that are pretty close. Manglar Alto is to the south. Montanita, and then Olan is just north of us, and it's 2 minutes away for a $1.50 taxi ride. And Olan has a lot larger expat community, mainly because it's quieter than Montanita, and they kind of the same thing. They like being close to Montanita, but not in it. Seems to be more families there. Still a lot of activity along the waterfront. In stores, et cetera. But, and they've got some more neighborhoods that are off into the mountains that are growing. So there's probably a larger year-round population in Olan than Montanita. But a lot of people just kind of go back and forth, lots of restaurants. And if you want to party, you come to Montanita.
You would have to be a certain type of individual really to retire, I guess, from the U.S. to Montanita, or because if you're an urban person, you're not going to, it's not going to be your thing. But if you're like the bohemian,
It's
I
think
Key West type.
it's more like old Key West. It's got the bohemian party atmosphere. There's some artist community there that's growing, and I think to me it's a nice combination. I've already have another friend who did buy some land down there, and he's building a house right around the corner from the hotel. And so it just depends what you're looking for. There is a little hospital in Manglar Alto. Again, that's about a $2 taxi ride away. And then we are getting a new hospital in Montanita that's probably going to be opening in a couple of months. They're almost done with it.
Oh, that's great.
On our street, actually, is one of the main streets coming out of Montanita. There's a doctor clinic, healthcare clinic going in, private practice. But everything is so inexpensive there. The doctor's visits, there is national health care that you can buy into. It costs about $80 a month to be a part of it. There is
and they cover everything, I'm sure.
Yeah, everything's covered there, and prescriptions are cheap. I actually found a dentist in Olan, the little village north of us, and he lives in Olan. His main office is in Guayaquil. So on the weekends, he does dental work in his office by the beach. And I was looking at getting some dental work done here in the U.S., and it was a total of about 18,000. And I went down there, and it's about less than 6,000.
I was going to say 1800. Yeah, maybe.
But even then, I mean, he started doing some things, and I went and, I got some antibiotic and a painkiller, and I went to the pharmacy, and it was like $12 to fill both. And so it's
like a different world.
It is. And the people there are very friendly. They're hardworking. It's very welcoming. There's a lot of poverty, and that's that's not for everybody. I think that's where some people would probably get turned off from. But the people are very genuine, I think.
What's the climate like?
Montanita is 2 degrees south of the equator, and we're at the foot of the Andes. Montanita means little mountain. So it's at the very end. So this time of year, June through November, it's kind of overcast season. You get a mist effect from the mountain. It's sunny, usually 1 or 2 days a week. But there's that kind of that misting rain, not very many heavy rains. But the temperature at night is about 67, and during the day about 75. And then in December, it's a nice breakout. Not too bad. I mean, there's much more breeze coming off of the ocean, so it helps with the humidity. Um, and coming from Florida, summers of we're hitting 93s and 95s pretty often here. To go down there is a nice break. But then in December it starts sunny season down there through into May, and the temperatures go up to about 85 and about 70 at night. So it's a hot 85 because the sand is more of a brown sand. It gets hot. And the sun is intense there. It's really beautiful sunsets, especially that
it's on the equator. So
right. So, but the consistency of the weather to me, I love it because I don't really care for season changes. I like the consistency, and the cool evenings are great.
So other than the misty weather right now, there's no real rainy season like Florida gets with the hurricanes and stuff.
No. The only natural disasters that happened in Ecuador really are earthquakes. And they tend to be in the northern part of the country near the volcanoes and mountains. And we feel them. We get the shakes there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've had a couple where I was like, oh, okay, that's what an earthquake, tremor feels like.
I haven't really experienced it.
Yeah. So, I walk out in the pool's kind of, a little bit awake in the pool, but it's pretty interesting. And so there was a pretty bad earthquake north of us in Manta, that city. It's about two hours north, that did a lot of damage about 5 years ago. There really hasn't been any serious ones since, but we're aware it's still there.
So have you been able to make friends with locals there?
Yeah, quite a few. And there's, Spanish is the dominant language there. And in the hospitality industry, find more and more people there are learning English to greet the customers. And when I was a visitor myself, it wasn't that hard to travel and get things done. As a employer now and dealing with employees, I see the need to learn more Spanish. And
are you fluent at all?
No.
Okay.
But there are a couple of Spanish schools right there in town. And there's both Spanish and English. So we have a couple of our employees are taking English lessons, and we're starting the Spanish lessons ourselves. So
you should switch between employee and teach each other the languages.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yep. Would you say language would be necessary to live down there, to learn the Spanish language? Or
I think it would be, I'm not sure it's necessary. Everybody now is getting used to using Google Translate on their phones, which, we didn't have 10 years ago, or we didn't use it. And so it's getting easier to communicate down there without knowing Spanish, but I can definitely see the benefit of learning, some basic Spanish.
So it's like you went from the airport in a Uber.
Yeah.
You need.
Plus a lot of the taxi drivers. Yeah. A lot of the taxi drivers do know English.
Okay.
There are some that don't, but it's not hard to find one that does. Yeah.
Okay. So there's no sort of LGBTQ neighborhood. It's just like a live and let live type thing.
Yeah, it is pretty much, again, it's not a huge area to begin with, but there's but everywhere I've gone, it's been live and let live, and pretty much everybody's welcoming.
How big is the city? Is Montanita?
I think there's about 4,000 permanent residents.
Okay.
Even the main part is about 8 square blocks of pretty central, and lots of good restaurants and fun stuff. And then there's lots of, curving streets outside of downtown, kind of up into the foothills. There's farmland close by. There's we got some nature trails, horseback riding that's kind of fun close by. And then a lot of surfing and surfers.
Is your place the only place that has gay bars, or are there other gay bars?
I'm not aware of any others in gay bars in Olan or Manglar Alto, or there's a lot of gay bars in Guayaquil and Quito and Cuenca are kind of the 3 big cities that have a large gay population. And Montanita has always been kind of the weekend getaway for those cities, especially Guayaquil, because it's so close. Um, and so a lot of gays were coming to Montanita anyway. Now we're just kind of giving them a few more options to, places to stay and hang out.
And you mentioned, everything is cheap down there. Do you have any idea, providing examples about housing, renting versus purchasing, electric bills, water bills, gas bills, stuff like
Yeah, everything, all of that stuff is very cheap. You can find a nice house for rent, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, furnished for probably 500, 600 a month.
Wow.
You can find apartments for less. Um, Utilities are very cheap. One of the things that was interesting in the story of Ecuador is that about 18 years ago, Chevron had an oil spill in the Amazon, and it was created by an earthquake. So they could have owned up to it and probably been okay, but they covered it up. And the leadership of the country caught them and basically threw them out of the country and claimed the oil as a natural resource. And it has been ever since. It's a nationalized country. It's a socialist government. And they claim the oil is theirs, and they maintain low pricing for their country, and then they export a lot. And so the price of gas is $2.40 a gallon.
Oh my goodness.
And it had been about $2.20 a gallon for quite a while. As gas prices were going up, they were raising them. And this was an interesting thing of community involvement there. For a long time, years past, so again, going back 15 years, there was a new president every year. They would get voted in and then voted out. And if they weren't doing enough to help the poor people vote. And about a month ago, we were made aware that there was probably going to be a national strike. And it was mostly over gas prices, because they'd gone up to $2.60 a gallon. But they also had caught the government mining communal land, which their local land that's theirs, without permission. They wanted the communa wanted more money for healthcare, more money for education. There were a few other things, and they had a 10-point platform, and they had been in talks with the government, and talks fell apart. So they went on strike. And when they go on strike, they just block streets. And it's mostly nonviolent. Sometimes there's a little flares. Yeah. Sometimes a few flares. It's mostly around the capital, like in Quito. So it didn't really affect us too much, other than it did stop traffic, a few times along the beach, and everything shut down. And then they started talking again, and then talks weren't going well. So it went on for about 2 weeks. And then the Catholic Church stepped in. And between the three of them, they came to an agreement. And so they're working under that agreement, and they'll revisit things and make sure things are making progress. And it's kind of refreshing where the church steps in to help.
Yeah, that's kind of different
for us in the U.S. And the church has really stayed out of the whole gay civil rights issue down there. They're just really not involved. And it's very much a legitimate community. Yeah.
So you mentioned violence, and that brings me to a question about, do they allow guns like we do here?
They do not. For a long time, nobody was allowed to have guns. Now they have a very strict process for getting a permit to carry a gun. But it's very strict and very rare. For a long time, it was only the police had guns. And crime is
the only ones.
Right. The crime is there's a little bit of crime in areas of Guayaquil. It's a city of 3 million people. There's some areas in Quito. You have to be careful. Again, it's a pretty large city. In Montanita, the main thing you have to worry about is just, don't be flashy with your phone and pickpockets. It gets crowded, party scene along the main streets. So, put your wallet or your money in your front pocket.
In your pocket. Right.
Yeah. And don't
or somebody will
Right.
Don't leave it on the beach
Don't
type
leave it on
thing.
the beach. A funny story, because I had a friend, one of our guests down there, a friend of mine. He was out partying with us, and we were on Cocktail Street, and then he went to one of the nightclubs and was dancing with a couple of people, and got home and the next morning, and he thought his wallet had got stolen when he figured it happened at the club while he was dancing, and about an hour after he reported all of his cards and everything, and a person knocked on the door of the hotel, carrying his wallet.
Wow.
He had left it on the bar on one of the cocktail bars on Cocktail Street, that we had stopped at.
Actually returned it.
And he said it had sat there. Yeah. It had sat there for about a half hour until he grabbed it, and we had talked a little bit, and he knew where we were staying. And so he delivered it, and all the money in it and everything. And it was,
That's great. That's great.
kind of a neat story.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't find that too much here or probably anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, what are you a foodie? Like, is there a restaurant scene? Or
There's a pretty good restaurant scene. There's a lot of seafood because it's on the coast, and they have a lot of shrimp production in the area, which I love. But there's also a couple of decent Peruvian restaurants. There's a couple of good Italian restaurants. In Olan, I think there's a couple other restaurants. One is called Momo's. It's American, but it's really good food and very reasonable. We had a group of guests. When we ended up, I think we had 8 people there, and somehow we ended up going through 12 bottles of wine and appetizers and meals and desserts. And the total was like $500, and it was it was very high end. And I'm not sure what Michelin star it would be, but it's pretty high up there.
Yeah,
and excellent food, and that would have been easily $1,200, $1,500.
Oh yeah,
yeah, just on the wine.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
But fortunately, we get some good, especially Chilean wines down there are very popular.
So, did you open a restaurant as well?
We did part of Merman Beach Club. We were just opened originally as a bar, and we've been adding the menu and kind of toying with the menu, and it's been coming along pretty well. And we do a lot of seafood and rice and pasta and empanadas. And,
Okay.
It's right on the beach, so it's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, it's great to have.
Medium price. And there are ranges there. There are kind of the known tourist strip. The prices are a little bit higher at the restaurants there. You go 1 block away and you get a meal of grilled rice or grilled pork, chicken, steak, rice, salad, for $4. And it's a platter. It's big.
Yeah. That's what I hear different places. Here, you can get a 3-course meal if you're lucky to walk out, with less than $100, you're really lucky.
Yeah. The other funny thing, part of the whole bar conversation and deciding to do the bar, I've owned a bar in St. Petersburg and been involved in several in real estate transactions with bars. And when we got down there, we said, well, how much is a license to sell liquor? And they go, well, if you get a license, it's $18 a year for a permit. And most of the places don't even bother with a license. They sell liquor at every convenience store down there, every corner store. And going for
the liquor license here
in St. Pete, right now it's about $600,000.
600,000.
Yeah.
And how much is it in Montanita?
$18.
$18.
It's basically just a permit and to be allowed to buy from a distributor there. And the distributor prices aren't a whole lot cheaper than what you could buy on the corner. So
it's so crazy.
It is crazy.
So crazy. So is there any type of public transportation, or is everything Uber driving?
There are buses. There's a local bus, and then there's an express bus. And I still haven't, I've done the local bus a couple of times when I needed to run to get something in one of the other villages. I still haven't done the bus from the airport, and I plan to do that at some point, the express bus. The trip by taxi is about 2.5 hours. That's usually about $85. If you're splitting it with a couple of people, it's not too bad. The bus trip is only about a half hour longer, and it's $7.
Wow.
So if you're used to public transit and, you're comfortable traveling to a foreign country, it's worth it.
So where's the airport, in what town?
Guayaquil,
Guayaquil.
airport code is
And that,
GYE.
and that's 2 hours from
Yeah,
Montreal
2.5 hours from Montanita.
driving. Okay.
Yeah. There's talk of Montanita them putting in a little airport, so we're hopeful that happens, close by. Uh, and the president has apparently expressed interest in continuing to grow Montanita as a tourist destination. So,
Got it. So we talked about crime. So if I wanted to take my dog out in the middle of the night, I would feel safe.
yeah, I think so. There's a lot of dogs there. It's one thing is we've noticed, from the very beginning, they have a pretty good program for spaying and neutering wild dogs. But almost everybody seems to have a dog down there. So there's a lot of dogs. Most of them are pretty friendly. Um, and a lot of the employees, women and men, walk, the dark side streets to work and back. No issues. There's one area that I've heard is not. You got to be a little more careful of the pickpockets and stuff. But it's again, overall, I've never felt unsafe there. I mean, there's parts of St. Pete I don't like going at night. But
Yeah.
uh,
Okay. So, as far as healthcare goes, do you know what, I mean, you mentioned there was a hospital, one is being built, or?
yeah, there's a hospital in Mangalore, which is just south of us. And then we've got a new hospital being built in Montanita. There's a larger hospital in Salinas, which is an hour away, and then a pretty big hospital in Guayaquil. And we talk a little bit about their response to COVID. They, like many Latin American countries, got caught behind on it, and it was not a good response at first. But they quickly clamped down on things, quarantine, masking, etc. And very aggressive on vaccinations. About 95% of the people have been vaccinated. And so, they do take healthcare very seriously. It just was overwhelmed, at the very beginning. Uh, and again, everybody there has access to healthcare. And then if you're a resident, you can buy into their system. Very reasonable price.
Got it. Do you know about if people wanted to retire there, how would they obtain a visa?
It's pretty simple process. And again, we're talking US dollar currency, so it's easy to figure out. The tourist visa is very easy. It's 90 days per year. So if you're coming to visit, I just over my first year, by about a month, I went over. And then if you reach that 90 days, you just do an application, pay a $140 fee, and you get another 90 days. So if you're going there a lot, there's plenty of time, and there's no separate visa process. You just use your passport and you're in. The retirement visa, there's a couple of different ways. There's an investor visa that if you spend $40,000, you can have what's called an investor visa. So that's usually the price of a lot, here it's around 40,000.
And that allows you residency?
Yeah. And
for how long? Forever? I mean,
forever. Yeah.
Wow.
And then there is also a pensioner's visa that they just changed the rules in the pensioner's visa to, if you can show a monthly income of $1,200 and I think it's $40, somewhere in that range, you can get what's called a pensioner's visa. So most people, if their Social Security is over that, that's easily covered. And there's a couple other different visa options. it's one of those things that the rules change. We have an attorney that we hired to do most of our stuff because of the business. But there's gringovisa.com, I think it is, that makes a pretty simple process.
And you'd have to go to the consulate in the United States.
No, you can do it in Guayaquil. You can,
Okay.
there's paperwork you need to have. There's a FBI background check, and then
Right.
fingerprints and things like that. So that you line up all that information, and then you come down and go to the immigration office here. It's like I said, there's several options. Yeah, there's people that just specialize in visas. It makes the process very easy. They tell you exactly what you need, and it's not that expensive. The attorney's a little more expensive, but
I think they call them in Europe hestors.
yeah,
It's sort of like a notary, but they know all about, visas and about the country. So kind of help you relocate.
and bringing up notaries, the land process and buying property here, there is title to property here. So if you have a property that has title, then you actually get title and it's guaranteed to be yours. And they utilize notaries here. They do more what we call an abstractive title. They copy all the history of all the transfers and make sure they were all done correctly. And they sign off on it that this is yours.
Okay.
And then the key though is you have to make sure you have that, because there's also a lot of communa land that is owned by the local community, and they could sell it, but they can also take it back. So unless you have a good attorney to make sure that communa land is actually being transferred to you, you want to make sure it's done correctly.
Sounds like sort of like Palm Springs, Native American land and stuff like that. You got to be, what is it called? Simple and
Be simple, yeah. But a lot of the land in Montanita has been transferred and has title. A lot of the beachfront land, that's why we rent the bars, because those are our communal land. And we might down the road be able to buy them, but for now we're not.
So you're just renting them.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you miss anything? Like if you're down there for a long period of time, do you miss anything at all back in St. Pete?
The biggest thing
food
is
or
Amazon.
there's no Amazon.
There's no Amazon. There's not even really mail delivery in Montanita. Some of the bigger cities there is, but so there are ways to get things. You can have it shipped to Guayaquil and pick it up there, or you can. They have mule service. Somebody can bring it to you. It's not that expensive. It's just not that convenient. I had a funny thing. We were trying to find some umbrellas for the beach bar and for the hotel. I bought some on Amazon. And then I found out how much it costs to actually bring them. And, the umbrellas originally were $100 a piece, but to bring them through customs and pay the import fees, they would end up being about $300 a piece. So I said, no, we'll use those umbrellas in St. Pete. But we found somebody down there to make them. And so they made umbrellas. It was a little bit less than $100, and they're much better umbrellas, much heavy duty wood instead of plastic and thin metal, and heavier canvas. And so I feel actually better having it made locally.
And support the local economy too.
Support the local economy and have a better product. And
absolutely.
We had some of the same thing with the furniture around the pool and had it made locally, instead of buying it, instead of buying plastic chairs, which are available down there, but without having real wood furniture was nice.
So there's no Amazon, boy, that would
No
be
Amazon. That's,
no Costco, no Amazon, no
They have
Starbucks.
they have some big department stores. Then there's one that about 45 minutes away that you can get a lot of stuff at, and liquor cheap too. But home furnishings and clothing and glassware and groceries. Other than that, in Montanita, there's pretty small stores, and there is a small grocery store that is very well stocked, but it's small.
So you've been there for quite a few years. And of course it's like on a part-time basis.
Right.
Do you, besides Amazon, do you miss anything? Are you homesick for anything when you're gone?
Well, I haven't, my husband has been there before we got married, but since we got married in October, we're still waiting on his green card. He's from Thailand.
Okay.
And so he cannot visit yet. So I miss him. And I mean, the fortunate thing is, like I said, I've had many friends come down and visit, and we've made a lot of friends there from people coming down, first time. A lot of people that are familiar with Montanita, it's the emotion that the people have there of having a gay place for them to stay is empowering. They're almost emotional when they say, "Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate this, having this here for us." And so that's kind of neat. We made a lot of friends down there. The expat community is especially in Olan, they have get-togethers for breakfast and for dinner. So there's a lot of that camaraderie there. The beach bars, again, are kind of the laid back hangouts, to where you really have time to get to meet people and chat. And so there's no lack of socialization there. It's really just some of the amenities are a little bit harder to come by.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely understand that. I have to come down and visit one day.
You better.
Yes. So, where could people find you on social media?
Well, we have a couple of sites, casadelmerman.com, links to both St. Pete and to Ecuador, Montanita. And then we also have visitgaymontanita.com, which has a little more information on the area itself and lists, restaurants and bars and how to get there and that type of thing. It's pretty easy flights with American through Miami. JetBlue comes through Fort Lauderdale. There's some international flights. Amsterdam and Madrid are direct flights to Guayaquil.
Oh, wow.
New York has a direct flight. San Salvador, Panama, Lima, Peru, all are direct flights. So there's some decent access by airports. And then, like I said, local traffic is either by bus or taxi. The taxi drivers are pretty reasonable. Like I said, we've developed kind of a relationship with a couple of taxi drivers. We have our favorite ones, and so they take good care of us. Yeah.
Oh, the Americans from St. Pete.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because the merman thing has just kind of taken off, and pretty much everybody go, "Oh, merman, yay!"
And for those that don't understand, merman is a male mermaid and they have the flaps or the tails and everything to go, with that. So it's pretty cute. I like it.
We've had fun with that, and that was, when it all really started from the December Diamond Merman collection of ornaments. We started collecting.
I have a few.
Yeah, we started collecting those in St. Pete, and then it kind of took on over the house here in St. Pete, and then we kind of liked it and decided to change the name and put on a couple of merman tails and we do merman fashion shows, and we've got tails now by both pools where guests will put on their own show. They'll put on a tail, take pictures and send it to all their friends. It's really a lot of fun. And so it's kind of its own beast. And my merman December diamond budget has gone through the roof.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add to our audience, say to our audience at all? I know we're going to have to invite you back for a St. Pete episode.
Yeah, definitely. There is a lot to do. I know we've talked about Montanita a lot and the party scene. There is a lot more to Ecuador and Montanita. The whale watching season started in June and goes through into September. Really easy to go out, rent a boat, $35 for 3 hours, watch and just cruise around and watch the whales. It's really fun. Of course, the surfing, there's rainforest tours, there's paragliding, horseback riding, just a lot of different opportunities to enjoy nature. There's a lot more nature sense of, and I think that's also part of the culture that I appreciated they're very protective of nature there. And so that permeates
That's a
the
good thing.
society pretty heavy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I thank you so much for enlightening us about Montanita, Ecuador. Was pretty, I didn't know much about it. And now we kind of understand, what the gay life is and what the beach life is and what life is in Montanita.
Well, I
So,
did mention, I forgot to mention, we are also looking at building some condos on site at the resort that can be part of a rental pool or retirement if you want to use it. And because construction costs are so low, they're going to be probably in the $65,000 to $70,000 range. And the taxes are, I forgot to mention that when we were talking about expenses. The taxes on the hotel last year were $150 for the year. So taxes on a condo there are going to be probably $50 a year.
wow. Do you hear that, guys? Condos for retirement, $60,000.
Yeah.
So,
Low taxes, low HOA.
how many bedrooms? How many bedrooms?
That's a 1 bedroom. Yeah, we'll probably have a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. It'll probably be around 90 or 100,000. The utilities are probably less than $50 for electric and $20 for water.
And that's on the beach.
We're about 2,000 feet from the beach. There's lots of options down there. There is beachfront property. And, we've had several investors that are starting to come down and look. I always tell people, to me, it's like Puerto Vallarta probably 50 years ago. So,
Right.
if you compare what prices are now in Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, yeah. You want to kind of catch those type of places like Key West before it became gentrified. And PV too. That was all those places.
I think
Fort Lauderdale.
Huntington is already gentrified nicely, and it's just welcoming more and more people there. And I just really like the vibe. I know it's kind of an overused word, but it's
some place. Yeah. It's definitely some place to keep your eye out, for long term, see what's going on.
Yep.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for your input. And ladies and gentlemen, you could hear this podcast on all of the platforms now, Apple, Google, Spotify, etc. So you could also tap into our website at www.wheredogaysretire.com. And if you like the podcast, give us a 5-star rating. That would be appreciated. And write some comments. We'd appreciate that too. And at the website, you could donate to keep this podcast going. And there's a little coffee cup at the bottom of the screen. And it says, buy me a coffee. Each coffee costs $5. And that goes towards putting this podcast together with all the equipment and editing and all that good stuff in the background that I do. All right. So we will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for listening to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and consider making a donation by clicking the coffee cup on any page at www.wheredogaysretire.com. Each cup of coffee that you buy costs $5 and goes towards helping us continue the podcast. Thank you for your continued support.